First off, I want to make it clear if you have any food, if there's anything that you need to get something to drink, we got, whether it's a protein drink or something like that. I prefer you don't get up and leave as a group. It would probably make me feel uncomfortable. But if you need something, feel free. I want it to be very casual. Obviously, I'm not dressed like Tony Robbins. It isn't going to be a formal seminar in that sense. Really, my intention with the seminar is primarily twofold. I am taping the skip loading seminar for my DVD called Longevity. It's essentially a training video about training when you're old, basically. How to train through your 30s, 40s, into your 50s, healthy, through injuries, around injuries. Heck, if we took time off every time we got injured, we'd get no training done anyway. The older you get, or some of you older guys, much like myself, you know what it's like to train all the time with something wrong with you. So I'm putting this DVD out to cover everything, to my thoughts on nutrition, training, supplementation, everything. I'm even going to have a chapter on posing because as Curtis being the judge and myself being the judge, being in the sport for a long time, there are things that just hurt the crap out of me that I see on stage with people. The new trend of, and Curtis knows all about it, I just have to touch on this, where you, and I need to apologize ahead of time. I have a foul mouth. I'm probably not going to curb it too much here. So if it comes across as unprofessional, I'm apologizing ahead of time. But one of the things, and we'll see if Curtis agrees with the posing, when you turn to the back, when you're doing a back double bind or a rear lat spread, do not put your dick in the curtain. Where did this come from? Tucking your ass underneath you to where it looks this wide, doesn't it? Instead of rolling it back, keeping your back, the illusion of it being shorter and being wider, things like that. I gotta get that chapter in. And the DVD itself really has little to do with contest prep. So coming back to the skip loading, the focus of the seminar, I want to be clear that I don't want to talk about the nutrition involved with loading for a show. Some of you guys, and I've worked with a few of you in here, I use this protocol for loading, carb loading, filling out before a show, but this seminar is more about using skip loading to lean down, using it throughout your diet to essentially keep your metabolism elevated, keep you running hot, instead of what everybody else's body does, and that is get used to the caloric intake that you're taking in, essentially get bored with it, and you plateau, and then instead of coercing your body into getting leaner, you're trying to force it. Now, how many competitors, who's competed in the room, or is set to compete, or is up to compete here soon? Okay, so not more than, well, about half of you, okay. So first out of the gate, I guess, in letting you know that the primary focus of the seminar really is about getting leaner. I use the subtitle, How to Eat Fruity Pebbles and Pancakes to Get Leaner. Yes, it's a bit of a PR move. It's not. It's accurate in the sense that those are some of the foods that you're using. The high GI, highly processed carbs to work with your metabolism, usually once a week on what is called a skip load day or a refeed. If I refer to it as a refeed, it's just a really bad habit of mine. Refeed equals skip load. It's the same. I'll try to stay with the skip load because branding is everything. So anyway, a little about me. We got to get the me show out of the way first. For anybody who doesn't know who I am, my name is Ken Hill. Everybody in the industry and in the sport itself knows me simply as Skip. I own IntenseMuscle.com and my nutritional consulting business, which is called Team Skip. I don't do this for money on the side. This is how I make my living. So, it's one of those things where you got a lot of people doing this. A lot of people who want to say they're contest prep guys. They want to say they're nutritional consultants, whatever you want to call yourself. Primarily, they're doing it on the side. It's a few extra bucks, be it for their hobby on the side or whatever, and that's just not the case with me. My reputation, my name is everything to me, because if I'm not If I don't stoke my reputation, continue to build it, my kids will go without food and my wife will go without top shelf vodka. And I don't think you want to see either of those two things happen. The reason that the seminar is free today, basically I need a group to talk to. I can't talk to that camera. Number one, I'll stumble over my words. I'll fight with the camera, knowing and feeling all uptight. Plus, it'll be incredibly boring. I don't know who's seen seminars on DVD or see someone talking about nutrition, but it just wants to put me to sleep. So, you know, I'm thinking that the people that watch it, I want it to be a little bit entertaining. I think I can get a little bit of personality in there too, and I want you guys, if you have a question, holler. I don't want to do you don't have to raise your hand, you don't have to do anything like that, holler. If I don't hear you, if I don't see that you're trying to flag me down or whatever, just speak up. My wife's behind the camera over there. She's not going to say much of anything because she has directions to just film. I'm sure she's going to get her 2 cents in here too. Anyway, I've been doing this for 27 years. I've been competing for 20 years. I'm known for my condition, minus last weekend when I decided to go out and do something a little bit different. But a big part of what I do is learning and doing different things, getting outside of the box, because staying in that nice little comfortable zone and doing the same thing over and over, as a prep guy and nutritionist, I don't learn anything doing that. Curtis will vouch for me that if I want to come in peeled and looking like I have no skin, every single time I compete, I can do that. I've proven that in the past. I decided to go full and go big and go for the heavyweights this last weekend. I don't want to say that it backfired. It certainly didn't backfire, but it was a different look for Skip. So if you haven't seen me before and you've only seen me this last weekend, know that that's not usually Skip's condition. So, competing for 20 years, doing this for 27 years. My team Skip Business has been going for about 10 years. I decided to take it from a hobby. Everybody, I think, starts that way. And sit down at home on my computer and just kind of took off. So my clients go, I not only work with local, state, I pretty much work with anybody, quite frankly. As long as you can execute, you're committed, I'll work with you. But I work with local, regional, state, bodybuilders, male, female, figure competitors. I work with professional athletes. I have the one that I can name, Jimmy Kennedy. He's a defensive tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. Comes here every spring for up to 2 months, lives here in Denver, training here at Armbrust, and I get him ready for camp, get him faster, get him lighter. His fat ass usually comes in about 340 or so. I don't want to catch a grief for that one right there, but he, like anybody else, he comes out of the season, he's a little heavy, he's got to go spend time with his family. You know anything about the NFL or Major League Baseball, the seasons are incredibly long. There's not a whole lot of family time there. So he comes here to get focused, and we send him off to camp fast and in shape and ready to make more money and win more games. So I worked with Curtis Bryant, professional bodybuilder. I've got guys that are going to the USA's this next week that are threatening to turn pro. So it runs the gamut as far as the people that I work with. This skip loading method of dieting, the principle itself works across any sport-specific training, any type of competitor as far as figure, bikini, bodybuilding. It doesn't change. The level of leanness and how lean you're going to get obviously would be different from a figure competitor as an example to you know, a bodybuilder, you know, on the national level. But the principles don't change. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. Last I checked, the carbohydrates, fats, and protein still responded the same. There's different, obviously a different hormone profile, but for the most part, everything is exactly the same. The principles are the same. So if you're wondering if it's any different from any sport, sport-specific training to, it isn't. It's all the same. Supplementation, super supplementation, things like that, that can all change, but that is the bulk of this seminar here. Now I did outline just briefly what I did want to go through. I want to get into the basic overview here. Who has anybody heard of skip loading before? I mean, is it something, if you Google skip loading, even shit load, and I'll get to that in a second, my name's going to come up page after page. That does not mean that there aren't people that do what I do, that don't use the same methods. But I did the research. I've been doing it for years. I have essentially perfected it. So if anybody else is using it, even for the local people here, if you're training with local trainers and stuff like that, I hate to sound arrogant, but the shit is mine. So I hope they're giving me a little bit of credit for it. And anybody in here, if you're a trainer and you want to take this, this method and use it with your clients, like I deal with trainers, I work with trainers, I work with contest prep guys who want to work with me, get my methods, and take them to their clients. I'm fine with that. But a little respect would be cool in the sense that if you're going to do that, use the term skip load. Give me the credit because I'm the one who did all the footwork. I'm the one who's done the experimenting. I'm the one who's gone over hundreds of clients with it over the last 8.5, 9 years. So, we all know who Skip is. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to get into, and I'm going to skip down here real quick to just let you know. When I get done with the structure of the skip loading, and I want to get really detailed, I don't want to drag this out all afternoon. I want to feed you as much information as I can, as efficiently as possible, but I want everybody walking out of here to understand clearly how to do this themselves, or have a very clear understanding of the protocol and how to implement it for their diet, and have that basic understanding of how it works. After that, though, I do want to get into a little bit of supplements. I am wearing my True Protein t-shirt because I take my sponsorship very seriously. I'm a True Protein sponsored athlete. All of my clients use True Protein supplements. Not because I get them for free, I'm going to get them for free anyway, but because they're the best out there. And when you have your name on a client, whether it's a local person in a figure show, to an NFL athlete, to someone that's getting ready to turn pro, my reputation rides on what that person looks like, the success that they have, how they look on stage. I have to put the best quality supplements in my clients for them to do that. And that doesn't mean that there aren't other quality supplements out there, manufacturers, there are. But they're few and far between, so I try to push the best. If you were taking something else and said, hey, how does Isopure work? Isopure is great. But that's the exception to the rule. There's a lot of junk out there. And when your name is on someone and your reputation rides on it, you want your clients taking in the best supplements that they can. So I do want to talk a little bit about the supplements later. I think cardio, even though it doesn't have anything directly to do with skip loading, obviously cardio is a component of getting leaner. And I have very different ideas, concepts about cardio. I want to get into that just a little bit. Super supplements, and I don't want to apologize for this as much as I want to explain that if it's something that you don't have anything to do with, I completely respect that. But because of the sport being what it is a component in bodybuilding. So if you do have questions, if you're interested in that information, I do want to touch on things like T3, clenbuterol, things that are used by a lot of competitors, not all competitors, and certainly not natural competitors. But if you have any questions on how that relates, how that works, I'll be happy to touch on that information. If you're not, and you're not comfortable with it, I completely understand that too. And you can either step outside or plug your ears or whatever you want to do. I don't know. We're not going to get you on tape, so it's not going to be incriminating in that sense. And just to finish up with a Q&A, if you have any questions throughout the process, if I'm not, and it happens, sometimes I don't articulate my thoughts terribly well. Not a very good speaker, quite frankly. I prefer typing, so this is a little bit out of my comfort zone. I understand this like the back of my hand because this is what I do every day. So if I happen to skip over something and you're not getting it, you're not sure, you don't have to wait for the end to ask questions. Just speak up, I'll stop what I'm talking about and answer your question. The only thing I ask is to help out to let me know where I left off. where was I? So we'll get into just the basic opening of skip loading. Essentially, what it is this. Throughout the week, you'll have your regular diet. Everybody has the diet that they would normally do during whether you're getting ready for a show. And this pertains even to people just getting lean. You don't have to be a competitor. it'll still work, protocol will still work, and it works for a lot of my clients that don't compete. You'll have your weekly diet. Could be high carbs, could be low carbs, could be keto, could be OCD, could be OPP. I don't know, I can't keep track of all the damn letters. TCD, I can't follow enough because you can't keep track of it, to be honest with you. Everything has a label, everything has letters to explain it. It doesn't, my point is it doesn't matter whether you're going low carb, high carb, and I can't sit here and tell you how you should do that. When a client comes to me, I have to take into consideration their past, what's worked in the past, what has not worked in the past, and we'll get a starting point. I don't know if you're familiar with some of the other people like myself that do what I do. I'll throw out a couple names just to make an example here. Chris Aceto is one of the top contest prep guys in bodybuilding, and he is known for being a high carb guy. His guys are on higher carbs or lower fats, and that's just what he does. Dave Palumbo, on the other hand, is pretty much the bipolar opposite, and Chris Aceto and Dave Palumbo are both very good at what they do, but they're set in their ways in the approach that they use. Dave Palumbo is pretty much a keto guy, and keto, when I say keto guy, for those who don't know, it's very low carbohydrates, keeps you in a state of what's called ketosis, it's higher protein and higher fat intake. He does use, I don't know if they refer to it as a refeed, but it's essentially one cheat meal a week. I find it sickly ironic that a lot of the guys who work with Dave Palumbo who are getting ready for shows end up coming to me and working with me as well because they need the bigger skip loading meals because one just doesn't do anything to your metabolism or to your physique at all. And they don't find that out until they're halfway through their contest prep and they realize it's not working. But my point is I don't have a cookie cutter approach. So I can't tell you during the week you need to have a high carb, low fat diet. I can't tell you you need to have a high fat, low carb, moderate protein. I would have to look at what you're doing, what you've done in the past individually to set that diet up. So I'm going to use a little bit later here when I get into the structure and the detail, I'm going to use my diet for this last show to give you an idea of how the skip load is incorporated into the diet, what the relationship is with the diet versus the load, that sort of thing. I struggle with it because I'm getting ready for a show and I'm eating all this crap once a week that my brain was struggling with it. I think a lot of us get trapped into the archaic approaches, and I think that's how these approaches stay around in bodybuilding for so long. As an example, you've got to drop sodium. You've got to drop sodium before you get on stage because you can't get hard without doing that. You can't get rid of water without dropping sodium, which is not true, but it's been around for years as an accepted method. Much like carb loading, the traditional carb loading 3 days out. Or if we're going to go with an example that doesn't have to do with contest prep, well, you've got to have your carbs low, and if your carbs are high, then there's no way that you can lose weight. All those things need to be put aside. You need to be able to get out of that box and be able to look at things with more of an open mind. Nutrition, supplementation, all this stuff has evolved so much in just the last 5 to 10 years that if you don't, you're going to get left behind. You're going to see those people on stage. When their condition isn't that good, 9 out of 10 times they have used the traditional approach, and they just can't figure out why it doesn't work. So anyway, getting back to the shit loading essentially was cheating. I mean, there was no structure. It was just, well, 1 day a week after you've dieted all week and you're depleted, eat a bunch of shit. And I'm like, well, what shit? Donuts, cookies, anything high. The structure was this simple. High fat, high sodium, high carb. If you crave it, eat it. Because your body won't crave anything but those 3 things anyway. I don't know, nobody in here has ever been so damn hungry that they thought to themselves, I gotta have a baked potato. If I don't get a baked potato, I'm gonna kill somebody. Or, oh my God, that chicken, I gotta have chicken, juicy chicken breast. It just doesn't work that way. You crave what you essentially are depleted or denying yourself of. Ever been on a high carb diet and you crave peanut butter so bad that you want to eat the whole damn jar? Or you go on a high fat diet and all you want are plain pasta noodles. and you're trying to tell your phone, oh, I want this plain pasta with friends, what the fuck? It doesn't make sense other than you crave what you're denying yourself. Keep fruit out of your diet. That fruit, it's craving fruit. And it'll taste like a dessert when you finally do eat it. So anyway, the shit loading concept worked to a certain degree. I got it in very good condition for the show. I was leaning out, I was using it once a week, which essentially, that wasn't part of the deal. It was supposed to be a load, but what I had done was I had gotten so depleted, was dieting so hard, that I did what probably everybody else in here does. Once a week, you're like, you just get to the point where you're like, I don't even care about the show. I don't care about anything right now. I have to eat or I'm going to kill somebody. So you don't sit there and do this. You start throwing down food. You've essentially in your brain wiped the day away. Oh, I'll get back on my diet tomorrow. Or I'm not even going to do the show. You know, that type of thing. We've all been there. I've been doing this for a long time. And to be able to come back and have that same feeling, it was frustrating. What I found though was by the time I got the water off, see the initial gain when you go out and eat a bunch of crap isn't body fat. Your scale weight goes up and you feel like crap and you feel like you're fat because you're holding water from all the crap you just ate. But it only takes 2 or 3 days for you to get back on your diet and that water comes off. Then you look and you go, oh man, I can eat a bunch of crap. And 3 days later I look okay. And it starts to kind of make sense. You're back on your diet. Then you get leaner. You might even drop your weight. You might still drop a pound or 2 that week. So you come into the next week even leaner. I did. So what did I do? Look, I'm sorry, I'm a logical guy. If it worked last week, it's gonna work this week. And I did that for the last 7 weeks before the show. Got into insane condition and made what was for me. I'm certainly no national level competitor and I'm not threatening to turn pro anytime soon. Competitors don't run from me like they run from Nick. Maybe one, no, I've been training 27 years, it's never gonna happen. Anyway, what it did though is it got me into my best condition. I was able to make what was for me a comeback. So after the show I had to look at it and I had to say, well, this certainly works, but I gotta adjust my brain and I gotta be able to accept that, this is not the norm. Who is gonna believe this, that type of thing. But what I did was I detailed it on the internet, on an internet message board essentially, and got a lot of people who were following going, oh my God, and then when they saw the pictures, they were like, my goodness. So I had a couple people come to me and they said, hey, how did you do this? Set this out, help me out with this. They got so popular, I started working with so many people doing it, that I thought 2 things actually. I can't believe that there's this many people that are interested in this. I could start charging people, maybe I could make a few bucks here to pay for my supplements. In which I did, and I started to make some money. What happened was I started working with so many people though that I started seeing things that I didn't necessarily like with the shit load. Not that I didn't like, but that I thought could be better. Could be more efficient, I could improve on it. When you start doing the same thing over and over and using a certain method, and this applies to most anything outside of even dieting, you're going to find things that can be fine-tuned and be better and you can change them and they're going to work better. Essentially, and that's why I put up here evolution, because it started out as shit loading. I saw things that didn't work and over years, I ended up changing things and tweaking things to the point where it started to be referred to as my name got bigger. Instead of shit loading, it was tagged as skip loading. And anybody who knows anything about business, if you're able to brand something, it's huge, because then of course your name is associated with it. If you go out and you Google skip loading, pages and pages are going to come up with me, Team Skip, Intense Muscle, that sort of thing. And the better issue, I laugh to say, the better thing was I didn't have to do it myself, which is incredibly cheesy when you tag something you've done with your own name. So it was nice that a client did that and it kind of caught on and it started to take off. By 2006, I had turned what was a little, make a few bucks here and there, decided to have a long chat with my wife, who thank God had a good job at the time, and allowed me to go into business and take this into making a living and making good money on it. So the evolution started, like I say, starting off with the shit loading, going into the skip loading. A lot of the timing things, a lot of the diet during the week is the same. It's just, and I'll get into the changes here in just a minute when I get into the details, but in the structure, you still refeed once a week, and the refeed being skip load. It's usually on Saturday or Sunday. Why is it on Saturday or Sunday? Because usually you're off from work on a Saturday or Sunday. You may not train on that day, a Saturday or Sunday. It's better to do the skip load on a day that you don't have to train, mainly because the load, and I'll get into this in a minute too, the size of the load is going to grow the leaner you get. Okay, and so I think what I'll do is I'll stop there, I'll hold off on the details so that I can kind of throw it all at you at once. So far, is there anything I'm throwing out? I feel like I'm throwing out a lot of information. Anything that's not clear, that you're not clear and you might have a question with at this point? Okay, the structure and the detail. Like I said, I'm going to use my diet as an example. I want to focus on the progression through the prep because, of course, your macronutrients and everything else during your diet during the week is going to change. You're still going to have to do the things like lower calories, up the cardio. I mean, during the week, it's business as usual. Okay? It's just a whole lot easier with your business as usual diet. Even if you're hungry and you're dragging ass, you're still going, man, I don't have to do 14 weeks of this shit. All I got to do is get to Sunday. Now, it wasn't set up that way. And I want to make sure that everyone understands, too. I try to make this as clear as I can with everybody I talk to with this concept. The skip loading day is not part of the plan of getting lean because your brain needs a break. It has nothing to do with that. It's a nice side benefit, but it's not a major, it's not in there to give your mind a break, to keep your mind fresh so that you can say, oh, okay, all I got to do is make it till Sunday. But it is a nice little side benefit because when you are down to 3 weeks out, and I mean, usually, and I want to apologize, I'm going to make a lot of reference to shows and being X amount of weeks out because that's the extreme part of dieting. If you can diet the extreme way, or you can get people ready for shows, you pretty much diet anybody. Okay, so I do, and because of what I do, because I predominantly do contest prep, the extreme dieting, the extreme nutrition end of things, I will reference that, but I don't want to give the impression that this doesn't have anything to do with regular diet, because it absolutely does. So I'm going to apologize for that ahead of time. But anyway, what you do, you come into your Monday, you have your regular diet, okay? And I would like to write this on the glass, but I'm not going to be able to do that. Let's see if I can get it up in here. Use my weekly diet, probably about the 3 to 4 week or 5 week out mark, just to give you an idea. With the skip loading, you don't carb cycle in the true sense of carb cycling like most of us know it. To me, carb cycling is you have your low, moderate, high day. You might change and you'll have 2 low, 1 high. You don't have any of that. Your diet throughout the week, Monday through, I'm going to use Sunday as the refeed for reference. So when I say Monday through Saturday, that's usually 6 days that you're doing the diet. There'll be no fluctuations. There's no higher carb, lower fat, that type of thing. You will get those fluctuations though based on whether you're training that day, whether you're doing cardio that day, or whether you're training and doing cardio. As an example, let's say that you're doing 2,000 calories. I'm just going to throw this number out because it's an easy number to remember. 2,000 calories a day, Monday through Saturday. Okay, macronutrients, for the sake of the loading and what I'm talking about right now, really isn't relevant. But 2,000 calories a day, Monday through Saturday. Okay. You may train chest, shoulders, and tris on Monday. Might not do cardio. Maybe it's not part of your plan to do cardio on that day. The next day you might do cardio. The day after that you might have legs and cardio. Okay. Cardio and legs don't usually go together that well, but it's my example, so work with me. So you have a 2,000 calorie intake Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but you have different caloric expenditure because you may only burn 400 calories while you're training on Monday. You may burn 300 while you're doing cardio on Tuesday, but you might burn 700 between your leg session and your cardio session on Wednesday. There's your fluctuation. Okay, I never really understood, and I don't want to beat up carb cycling, because there are respected nutritionists who use it, and it can work well. Number one, it's incredibly complicated. When you start to go brain dead at 3, 4, 5 week mark, 5 week out mark, I don't want to try to remember what day it is. I'm going to screw it up, and I've been doing this for 28 years. I've competed for 20. I don't want to go, oh shit, today is a medium day, because then you got to change all your carb amounts for each meal for that day, and then it's going to change the next day. So to me, it's overcomplicating a relatively simple issue. And one of my things, I know it's terribly cliche, but it's very true. When you're dieting and or doing a show, whatever, keep the variables as, number one, keep everything as simple as you can, but keep the variables that you change and the variables that you do, keep them low, keep them minimal, because if everything goes right, you'll know why everything's going right, or it'll be easier to figure out why it's going right. If you change 5 things at one time, even if it goes right, how in the hell are you going to know what worked and what didn't? Change 1 or 2 things, subtle. One is great, because then it works. It's pretty obvious that the thing you changed had something to do with it working. Now, again, I hate to sound like it's oversimplifying, but just keep it as simple as you can, then you're going to know what's working and what isn't. So, as far as the carb cycling, it just doesn't happen. In a sense, skip loading is a carb cycle, because you're going to go through your week and you're going to have a constant carb intake, and then you're going to blow up your carb intake, and it's just going to be off the chart. Okay? So, yes, it's carb cycling, but no, it's not in the traditional sense. Okay? So you've got your constant diet throughout the week, and I'm just going to throw this up, and I don't want any laughing, because I know you're going to go, well, I've seen 130-pound figure women eat more shit than that. But that's the way it goes when you're 40 years old, and your metabolism's in the shit. I used to eat a whole lot of food when I was 25. I could go out and eat Dairy Queen, but man, I don't look any different. I haven't gained any weight. But that kind of changed. What, 5 years ago? I was 15. But anyway, meal, I'm going to do a new marker here. I'm running on 6 meals pre-contest. Part of the reason that I'm not running on more food, and Nick knows this, I'm not huge on cardio. I'll get to that in the cardio part, but I am not. You need to rely, you'll be better off relying on your diet to get lean than you will cardio. On top of the fact that, and I'm glad to see that they're going terribly on like 21, 22, because then people drive me crazy. Shut up, Nick. You're okay. You're not 21. You're probably closer than everybody else. But the point is we all have families. Most of us have families, kids. You got a mortgage. You got a career. You got things that you have to balance with getting lean or show or competing or whatever it is. Okay, so to keep this balance and keep focus on your diet and not be able to, or not have to go to your job and be brain dead to the point where your boss pulls you aside and says, look, I mean, you're not functioning, you're not taking care of business. So it also has to be practical. Me doing 2 hours of cardio a day isn't practical. Now, if I had to do it, it's the only way I could get lean, of course, okay, I guess I'm going to do it. But other things are going to suffer. So the point is, still, from a condition standpoint, aside from if you had all the time of the day and you don't work and you hit the lotto and God love you, you still don't need to do all that cardio unless it's just an absolute necessity. Are there people that have to do that much cardio? Yeah, unfortunately there are. Okay? But again, that comes down to, and it's usually the case when you're forcing your body to get lean versus manipulating and coercing, which is a whole lot easier. If you can just manipulate, the body will do what you want it to do. When you start forcing it seriously, your body will tell you, fuck you. I'm only going to get so lean. And then you're on your own. I'm just not on any move. Some of us have probably seen it with our own diet. You get too radical too soon, body won't happen. Then you got to reset your metabolism, which is going to take 3 or 4 weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Get your calories back up. Back off on the cardio. Maybe you're even overtraining. Because of course, when your calories come down, your cardio goes up. Good luck recovering from those workouts that you insist on doing so much more weight training when you're getting lean, getting ready for a show. That's So, meal one, and this is based on, if it matters, I train at night. I can't get up in the morning and work till 4 a.m. on the computer. I have kids, I gotta get work done. I can't get work done when the kids are running around the house all day, so I gotta stay up late and do it. So I'm gonna get up about 11. It's nice working from home. Don't hate it. So we got meal one here at 11 o'clock. I'm gonna get, well, I'm doing cardio here, low cardio, talking 20 to 30 minutes. Okay? I prefer a heart rate of 130 because I don't think that it makes any sense to do cardio at 110, 100 on the treadmill. Look, if you can text while you're doing cardio, your ass ain't doing cardio hard enough. Okay? Your legs don't have to be on fire. You don't have to be sucking air so bad you're going to fall over. But you got to get something done. You got to burn some calories. Your heart rate has to be up. Okay? It'll get harder to maintain that heart rate the leaner you get, and the more efficient your body starts taking up oxygen and everything else. So then I get the question, well, if it gets easy, or if it gets harder to maintain the 130, then that's cool. I can just go, no, you have to maintain the 130. So if you're going through your prep and you're getting leaner and leaner, your body's functioning more efficiently, then you just gotta up the intensity. You gotta keep the heart rate up. And my God, if you're gonna waste the time, or if you're gonna use the time, take the time to do the cardio, damn well better make sure that it counts. It wouldn't make much sense to waste the time and text and read. How can you read? Does anybody, honestly, and if you do, just tell me how to do it, but how can you read? Can you seriously? You didn't have, she wasn't going to admit it. It's like, I'm not saying nothing. He gave you away with one of these. I need to know how to do that. Is there a chance? What is the form of cardio? Are you sitting on a bike or something?
No, I'm on the treadmill.
No kidding. That is impressive. We need to talk after. You need to help me out because I can't do it. Plus, I'm sweating like a pig everywhere. So I've got my cardio right here. Empty stomach. Look, cardio on an empty stomach is the best you can do. Okay? Wow, I need BCAAs before. I need all this shit. I got to take 12 supplements. No, you don't. Because as soon as you do, you get an insulin response. And when you get an insulin response, your cardio just became incredibly much less effective. Okay? Well, it's not a carbohydrate skip. It doesn't matter. BCAAs, anything in your stomach at that point will elicit an insulin response. Okay? That's just the best way to look at it. Some things will elicit this much and some things this much, but just look at it as it's just better to do your cardio on an empty stomach, period. The worst time to do cardio, in my opinion, is post-workout. Now, I know that fits into everybody's schedule so much better, and I can understand that. And you have to take into consideration how practical your schedule is. Some of you guys work 10-hour, 12-hour shifts. Sometimes you got to work back-to-back. Sometimes that has to happen. It's certainly better to do cardio post-workout than not at all, but it's not the best time. Best time is doing it on an empty stomach. Next question is, isn't it catabolic? Boy, do I love the word catabolic, because it gets overused. Anything that has anything to do, the word is funny to me, because I hear these questions on the board all the time. Well, so I don't want to be eating up muscle tissue. Well, you're trying to eat up body fat. Body fat is the first source of fuel, not muscle. You've been catabolic all night. While you sleep, you're not eating anything, so you're arguably, technically, catabolic. Now, we can get into, don't come out, well, there's growth hormone release, and I've got so much shit running through me that I'm recovering just fine. That may well be, but those same, you're still arguing, it still gets argued that there's a catabolic state coming out. Look, you're trying to burn body fat. When you train, it's catabolic in a sense, because you're burning more calories and you don't have the nutrients running through you, especially by the end of the workout, to be anabolic. You're not in a growth-producing environment, so you're catabolic. Oh shit. Well, my point is, the word catabolic is overused. Don't stress about, well, I haven't eaten. There's actually, and I won't get into this right now too much because it's not my gig, but there's a lot of ignore Alan and his and his fan. Oh goodness. You guys know Uriah McGee or no? He's a pro in the 202s. He came down to train today with Al. He's going to be in town. His sponsor's got him in town. He's getting ready for the, he's got to qualify for the Olympia, but he should do real well. Anyway, and I probably just lost my train of thought. What the hell was I saying?
Catabolic.
Catabolic. It's not something that you really need to sweat. It's not something that you have to worry about. Don't overanalyze it. Again, keep it simple. The cardio in the morning is the best because you don't have carbs in it. I mean, it's really that simple. Your primary fuel at that point, your main fuel is going to be body fat. Unless, of course, you get out and you just start pumping away at 180 and you're pushing cardio, your legs are on fire. Then, of course, you're using glycogen. But that's not the point. What I was, and I just remembered this, what I was getting at is there is some scientific evidence now, and I'm not big on scientific evidence and studies and that sort of thing. I'm big on applying something and seeing if it works, either with myself, with willing clients, that sort of thing. Everything can look great on paper and not work for shit when you apply it. Then there are other things that you can apply and they can work beautifully and you can't explain why. Now, if you want to stick with the studies, I completely understand. And I'm not saying that studies are, they should just be, you shouldn't pay any attention to them, that they don't matter. All I'm saying is I just don't care to go that route because if you're talking about a study, usually it's not within the parameters of what we're doing, the type of people we are, the type of foods we're eating, and the extreme dieting, the weightlifting. Now, if you want to give me body weight, steroids is a good example. This just comes off the top of my head. It's real easy to show clinical studies about how, oh my gosh, this guy, he came in and he had a heart attack and he died and he was on steroids. But if you really want a study that will show what will happen, then somebody needs to get off their ass and get a bunch of bodybuilders together, a very large, long-term study, and find out what using the dosages that these bodybuilders use. And people die of heart attacks. My sister was 29 years old, went to sleep one night and didn't wake up. She never took a steroid in her life. But had she, that would have been the cause of death, guaranteed. Okay, because a study at some point showed that somebody died. Same with ephedra is a good example too. That was taken up because you got guys that are running around with 300 pounds at camp for football, and oh my God, all of a sudden they're dehydrated. And they die. Never mind that 5 million people have used ephedra-based products, but you had 10 deaths. So the studies don't always back up the reality of what's going on. What I was getting at was there's some evidence to show that not eating breakfast when you're training and you're not an average person who's not doing anything, you're just sitting around, but there's some evidence to show, and it's pretty interesting. The first couple hours that you don't eat at the beginning of the day, where most people would argue that it's catabolic, you're actually burning body fat. Depending on whether you're a night owl, whether you're a morning person, cortisol levels may be high, they'll come down after a couple hours. So the hormone profile will show it's very possible that you're, by delaying that breakfast and not eating anything at all for 2 or 3 hours beginning of the day, that you're actually going to burn more body fat than had you had that breakfast, which is predominantly carbohydrate for most people. Usually you don't get into just a protein fat meal the first meal of the day. But I do, and I recommend it to any client who is doing cardio in the morning. So what I'm doing is I'm hitting this cardio and then I'm coming to my meal right afterwards, which is protein and fat, no carbs. Why? Because you want as small of an insulin response as possible. Carbohydrate obviously is going to elicit more of an insulin response. You can get into the GI, the glycemic index of carbs, and you can say, well, I use low glycemic index carbs, and I combine them with a little fat. That's cool, but you're still getting more of an insulin response as opposed to leaving the carbs out entirely. Now, you're not going to leave them out all day because I'm not a keto guy. I do believe that you have to have carbs in your diet. Now, you can get damn lean without carbs. Keto, very low carb, that sort of thing. But there's a different look. And a lot of times it's drawn, flat, exhausted. You talk about, look, and I'll use my wife as an example. God love her. But I'll tell you what, if she had to go keto, on a keto diet, low carb, to get ready for a show or to get lean, I'm either going to divorce her or I'm moving out until she's done. and not really, but my point being, and she would probably feel the same way with me, because I've gone very, very low carbs. I've done everything. I'm an experiment son of a bitch. I got to do everything to find out why it's working, how it's working, and if that means that I'm gambling with my condition when I show up on stage, I'm cool with it. Because business comes before that damn trophy. That's just my perspective, and that's how I look at things. I'm gonna learn so much more, doing a bunch of different things to see how it works, and do the same thing over and over, just keep showing up in great shape. So you're going to be incredibly moody. It's difficult to function on a keto diet. It's difficult to go to your job and perform at your job. And I mean, look, it's all great that we all want to compete. It's all great that we want to win. Look, I compete to win. I diet to win every day. But you got to force some balance here, because when push comes to shove, it's just a damn show, man. If any of you are getting ready to go pro and make a living at it, cool. But no offense, it's not likely going to happen. Not with this room of people. You got a better chance than anybody else in the room. I'll give you that, genetically and what you've done. But it's still not likely. The odds are against you. You got a better chance of being a Major League Baseball player, statistically, as far as how many people turn pro. And I'm talking about making a living. Uriah's a pro, he ain't making a living. He might be a personal trainer, he might have some sponsorship deals, he might be getting paid, but it isn't much. And I don't mean any disrespect to him, I'm just calling a spade. You gotta be one of the top 10, 15 pros out there to be making a living doing what you're doing. Or you gotta have a personality like Andy Hammond. I don't know if anybody knows Andy, but Andy's the craziest son of a bitch. But he's the exception to the rule. So, going back to the pro fat gym, you're gonna get this meal out of the way. You're gonna go, I say 2 to 3 hours. And I'm talking about my diet. I'm not gonna say I'm eating a 2.5 hours. Not because it's not practical, because I can make it happen because I work from home. And I think we all become a little OCD when we diet anyway. But you need to leave this window open a little bit based on hunger. Okay? If it comes down to 2 hours, let's say you have a drink, let's say you have a protein drink. We all know that you're going to be hungry an hour, at least an hour earlier after a protein drink, even if you have a fat source with it that's nuts, peanut butter, whatever you're using. Maybe you're even using carbs with it. It's the process of digesting a protein drink or a liquid meal is so much faster that to hold off just isn't a good idea anyway. You don't ever want to dismiss hunger completely when it comes to dieting and the timing of your meals. And just to make my point, I have people that come to me that might be 300, 350 pounds sometimes. And they say, look, I just want to get lean. I want to get, and I look at what they're eating and I'll take their diet. Some of them, I put them on what's called the hunger-based diet, where they have a list of clean foods, they have the timing, X amount of protein, but let's say it's a protein carb meal, that particular meal, then they're going to eat their protein, they're just going to fill up on clean carbs of their choice from the list. It may be oatmeal, maybe sweet potatoes, but they're going to use their hunger to guide how much they're going to eat. Are they going to overeat at that meal? It's possible. Then they're going to need to undereat at the next meal. Okay? But they're using hunger because once your blood sugar levels fall, you only get hungry when your blood sugar levels fall off. It's just the way it goes. So if you get hungry at 2 hours and you're waiting another hour, that's when you're getting into the catabolic phase where you don't want to go without eating. Look, just move your, and I get the question all the time, God, I'm just rattling this tummy. What's your last meal? What's your next meal closer? If you're not hungry at the 2, you've had a solid meal, and you're not hungry at that point, you're going to wait until the 2.5 to 3 hours. Use the hunger to a certain degree. Now, I always get this too. So you don't know how much I can eat. I can eat 4 jars of peanut butter, and I'll be rolling on the floor, and they'll be empty, and I'll be rubbing my stomach. No, you might think you can, but eat a half a jar of peanut butter, and then tell me how much you want to eat for the next 6 hours. What it also does with the hunger diet, just to touch on that, it also teaches people who have been overweight for a long time how to read their body based on hunger and eating clean. Most times when you get to 350 pounds, you've been eating some serious amount of shit to get there. You're not eating oatmeal and going, damn, I just all of a sudden woke up 325 pounds. It just doesn't work that way. So you change, and a lot of them are drinking calories too. So you take the tops out, take the fruit juice out, that sort of thing, and then all of a sudden take beer out. Drink beer twice a week. You've been doing it for a long time. You got beer titties and everything else. You've seen that? I've been there. It takes me a while to get them, but I'll get them. 260 pounds, I'll get them. But it's been a while, incredibly unhealthy. But nonetheless, quit drinking those calories. You'll drop weight like it's just crazy. And then when I hear, man, this is easy. I do want a beer, but this is really easy. I can't believe how easy it's coming on. So anyway, the hunger diet doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about here, but I like to go off on tangents, and boy, do I like to talk. This is me time. This is therapy. Anyway, we're coming off this ProFat. I'm going to put the carbs in after this meal, so I'm going to turn to, ProCarb here, ProCarb here, and this again, this is just me. Could be 3, could be 4 meals. I go with 2 because my carb intake is based on this. I need 2 main things out of my carb intake during the week. I need enough energy to be able to train and get a bit of a pump in the gym, and I need to remain relatively full. Okay, now you're going to be coming, and I'll get this in a minute, but you're going to be really full coming off of your refeed or your skip load. So the first couple days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, that sort of thing, you're pretty full. You're getting pumped, you're like, damn, this is cool, I'm strong. And then all of a sudden, you're going downhill. The further you get into the diet and the leaner you get, the faster you plummet, quite frankly. There are trade-offs. It's not all roses. By Wednesday and Thursday, you're starting to get flat again. Look, the workouts on Friday or Saturday, they're not going to be too good. And when I say they're not going to be good, if you have a weak body part, let's say your chest is your weak body part, you're not going to want to have it on a Friday or Saturday or later in the week. You want your weaker muscle groups to be trained early in the week when you have more energy, you're fuller, and arguably you're going to move more weight. So something to consider there. I have 2 carb meals here because anything more than that, I'm just not going to need. This is going to take me into, right before I go to the gym, I'm going back to ProFat. Holy shit, you're not eating carbs before you go to the gym. What the hell do you think? For me, okay, this is an individual thing. For me, when I put carbs in my stomach and I come into the gym, and my wife has to know where I'm going with this, it's not comfortable, okay? I'm gassy. Carbs, especially things like oatmeal, sweet potatoes, that sort of thing. Don't know how it works for you guys, but myself and a lot of my clients, they tend to get a little gassy. I don't want to train legs when I'm gassy. I don't want to bend over to train back if I'm gassy. You follow me? So I want to get that out of there. I may have vegetables, and I'm going to tell you right now, don't count vegetables as carbs. I don't know where that came. I think it came from the keto type diets, because Dave Palumbo says count your. For Christ's sake, it takes damn near the same amount of calories to digest the carbs as it does for the carbs that are in the vegetables. So now look, there are exceptions. You can't sit there. Peas aren't considered, don't count carbs, okay? For all intents and purposes for dieting, peas might as well be potatoes to a certain extent, because they are starchy, they're filling. You're going to get too many carbs, too many calories out. You do have to count those. So here's what I say. This is my rule when it comes to vegetables. If you're talking about things like broccoli, cauliflower, even carrots. Carrots get a bad rap. They did the whole they were a high GI thing when the glycemic index came out. No, they're not. They're cool. Eat carrots, you're fine. Just make sure that your vegetables come from 2 sources, frozen or fresh. Arguably, in my opinion, frozen is better. Fresh sits there, and every day it sits there being fresh, it's probably 5 days from when they picked it, when you finally get it. So that's 5 days of diminished micronutrients that are just running out all over the place, I don't know, oozing out, whatever. When they're frozen, they're pretty much frozen shortly after they're harvested or picked. So they're going to retain, in my opinion, a much higher micronutrient profile than even being fresh. Now look, if you can get it fresh and grab it at the flea market, more power to you.
Okay, but my point is most of us shop at King Soopers and Safeway, and to a certain degree, even I think Whole Foods, they can't be that fast with it. They are pretty good with their fish. They'll have their fish caught like the day before. It's like, how do you get that from Thailand and over here so fast? I think you got a pound out back. Anyway, the vegetables don't count. Count green beans, count peas. If there's anything else that you can think of, that's off the top of my head. But everything else doesn't count. Look, they'll say, well, I get clients who'll say, well, how much can I eat? How much broccoli can I have? Look, how much can you get in your stomach? Eat a bag of it. I don't care. It's not going to. The carbs just don't count. There's no other way to look at it. And if you want to mess with your head, go ahead and read how many carbs are in there. And then look at the bag, go, oh, because that'll really mess with your head. Or you can just take the rule and put it aside and say, you know what, I can eat as much. Because what's going to happen is it don't taste that good. You're going to be hungry, you're going to eat some broccoli, like, oh, yeah, okay. And then it's going to take you long to go, okay, I've had enough. Cauliflower, that sort of thing, same thing. Anyway, here we're going to train me. And I'll just talk about my supplements real quick. Again, everything I use is for protein. I'm going to use a blend. I'm going to drink a ton of water. I'm usually in 2 to 3 liter part here. And as far as water here, I should touch on this. Water the rest of the day. You hear 2 gallons, 3 gallons. Again, you need enough water, but it has to be practical in the sense that if your job, let's say you're a policeman, and I have this friend who's a sergeant with the Roar, and I've ridden with him. He will piss anywhere. Apparently, when you're a cop, you can just go wherever you want to go. We've got, this douchebag getting arrested for stealing a car and lying about it. And then I look and I'm trying to find him. I won't say his name. And I'm looking for him like, gosh, where did he go? Oh, he's pissing behind the dumpster. So you have to take into consideration, obviously what you're doing during the day, whether it's practical to pee every 20 or 30 minutes. But my rule is this, and it's a pretty simple one. You need to be peeing clear or damn near clear. And if you're peeing clear or damn near clear, then you're taking in enough fluid. The other part is take it in consistently throughout the day. Don't hit it in the morning and then, oh my gosh, it's 5 o'clock, I haven't had anything for 4 hours, and then slam again. Okay, you can't do that. You can do that, I guess, but it's not the best way. You want your body to get used to the cycle of water going in, water coming in. It helps with everything. It helps with digestion. It helps to keep digestion more efficient. It helps to keep you hard, looking hard, because it cycles sodium through, that sort of thing. As a competitor, no matter if it's figure or bodybuilding or whatever else, your sodium intake should be relatively high. And I say relatively high because a lot of people think that it needs to be, oh my gosh, I gotta watch the sodium, I gotta keep it real, real low. No one should be under 2 to 2.5 grams of sodium a day. If you're training hard, sweating, and your water intake is where it's supposed to be. Your muscles will contract harder. You'll be stronger. Here's an example. Anyone who's been on stage posing, you just like, gosh, you just feel like my muscles are just soft. They're not hard. It's almost always because at some point you took sodium. And the muscles will not contract as hard. You will not have the blood volume, which means you won't have the pump. I mean, it's a killer. So keep it in there. I have mine set, and I don't have it measured, but it's about 4 grams. Now, because I experiment with everything, I've been up as high as 9 grams. I look great until I start sweating. And the second I start sweating, it's like someone turned down a faucet. And I sweat profusely. My blood pressure was okay, because I was obviously monitoring that. But I say this, play with your sodium intake and find it. And I know I'm not talking about getting ready for shows and stuff like that all that much, but I will say this. When it comes time to get on stage and you're loading and you're playing with your water, don't get rid of your sodium. It's the easiest way to go flat. It's the fastest way to go flat. Some people will say, well, I'll take it out, I'll drop my sub-Q water, and then I'll reintroduce sodium. That's okay if you want to complicate a relatively simple issue. You don't need, again, it's a myth, it's one of those long-standing rules that you have to take sodium out to move water. And it's not true. Now, you can move water by taking sodium, but it's not a necessity, and you're gonna, most times, you're gonna look worse taking it out than leaving it in. Anyway, training, here's what I'm gonna put in my, and this is just me. I do this with some of my clients too, but again, it's individual as far as the client. I like to run BCAAs while I'm training in my water. How much? Whatever. I mean, look, there's no magic number. I usually run about 10 grams, just what I tend to run. It's essentially going to be used as fuel while I'm training. It's kind of an expensive carbohydrate if you think about it. I do like to run a creatine blend. There's something that True Protein sells that's called Augment. Nick, I think did you use Augment when we worked together or no? Oh, see, I didn't want you to do as well as the other guy that I had. No, Augment is a combination of a creatine blend. It's got all the, I say, shitty tasting creatines that are covered up by, has anybody used creatine ethyl ester? Come on. I mean, it's just bad. I've eaten a lot of things, and I put a lot of things down my throat. God, that sounds really bad, didn't it? Can you edit that out, that part, maybe? Well, the supplements I have tried, I mean, I'm on like the trial panel for True Protein, and there are things, if you ever see something, and I don't think it'll ever come out, but if you ever get trehalose as a carbohydrate source all by itself, stay as far away from it as possible. The things I have tried, and I can stomach a lot of stuff. Creatine ethyl ester, it just bounces in my stomach. It's all I can do to keep it down. Point is, very small amount. It's in a creatine blend, so there are like 2 other creatines in the Augment. There is AKG, which is essentially your NO2, and beta-alanine. You always got to have something there that makes you feel like you're taking something. Beta-alanine is good, but it's a very, very effective supplement as far as if you're the manufacturer of it, because anything that you sell as a supplement that you can have that person who's taking it feel it, damn. You don't have to wonder if it's working or if it's real, because you feel it. It'll make you, anybody use it, makes your skin kind of tingly. It's along the lines of like a feeling that you get with a little bit of niacin, maybe a little bit of an itchy thing. Does it work? I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I haven't experimented yet with it versus not with it, but it looks real good on paper, and I consider it what I call an insurance supplement. It's relatively inexpensive. Hell, I'm going to put it in there. I can't prove the BCAA powder works, but not the theory behind it, but the research behind it and how it looks on paper, it's relatively inexpensive. I'm going to put it in there. And I'm not a big supplement guy. I don't think you need to be taking all this shit. I get people that come to me and they're spending $300 a month on supplements. I don't think you need to do that. The basics need to be there. I think everybody needs a protein powder, because these days, protein powder has gotten so advanced, the nutritional advancements with supplements. I mean, anybody who's Curtis, I was going to say, who's really old like me? Back in the Weider days where you had the coffee can that you had to open with the can opener, and all of a sudden everything was dynamic. Dynamic muscle builder, dynamic carbo energizer, that sort of thing. Nutrition supplements have come so far, and the quality has gotten so good that if you take, you know, as an example, I have a Team Skip blend, protein blend through True Protein that outsells every other protein blend, including Dante's 3-to-1 on True Protein website. When you take and you measure the protein per gram in the Team Skip blend versus, say, chicken breast, the cost is actually less expensive now for the 1 gram, and I had to say in gram increments, but for the protein powder. And I've got a pretty damn expensive protein powder. There are cheaper ones out there through True Protein, but with the quality being what it is and the cost, I mean, it's almost silly to not use the protein powder from a budget standpoint. Obviously, you can't have protein powder every meal. And my rule is always, look, if you're taking in 7 meals a day, 3 of them being protein, cool. They shouldn't be back to back either. That's just a rule that I like. It keeps your body cycling through as far as digestion, solid food meal versus protein, instead of 3 protein drinks at a time, and all of a sudden you're throwing solid food in. But anyway, the BCAAs, the Augment has its combination of those things. All of this goes into my workout drink. And the BCAA powder, anybody have BCAA powder? Just taste it. Yeah, it's not very good. Well, now you're getting it flavored. I apparently need to talk to my sponsor and find out why they're cutting corners. I get it plain, and it's not that it's cheaper, but then what I do is I put a couple packets of Crystal Light, sugar-free Kool-Aid, something like that to kind of offset the taste. Otherwise, you're going to find that you're not drinking as much if it doesn't taste good, even if you're working out and sweating your ass off. So make sure that it tastes good, or that you can at least tolerate the taste so that you don't cut your fluid intake while you're training. BCAA's Augment, I keep holding this thing upside down, so it's not going to write very well. When I'm done training, even during the week, when you're on your solid, clean diet, your post-workout carbs need to be processed, low in fat, and well, Pop-Tarts, things like kids cereal is beautiful. If you want, it's just such a good combination because most kids cereal, even though you got different flavors, you got different manufacturers. I'm from Battle Creek, Michigan originally, so that's like cereal capital of the world. Kellogg's, Post, Ralston, I think is the other one. Anyway, so I'm very familiar with kid cereal. But you're gonna, throughout all the kid cereals that you put them all on a table, they're going to all have the same nutritional profile, give or take 5%. You're going to have half of the carbs coming from corn or wheat or rice, and the other half coming from sugar. I mean, that's a hell of, you don't have any fiber in there. It's a processed shitty carb. So it's really an ideal carbohydrate source post-workout. Why can you have those high GI carbs post-workout? Because your insulin sensitivity is high, so you're able to put those carbs in, and you're not going to put yourself in a situation. Well, you could put yourself in a situation, in a condition or a situation where you're not burning body fat efficiently if you take in so many more carbs than you need. Okay? But when you're done training, when you're done weight training, your body wants to refill